Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby. Greetings, fellow heroes. The Ace Guru has returned, not for one, but for 2 episodes of My Hero Academia. These episodes completely wrap up the Shie Hassaikai arc and begin the next major arc of the storied superhero action anime series. Before I begin, I just want to go ahead and give up a big spoiler warning. If you haven't watched either of these episodes, go check them out now, then come back to this review and discussion. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into episode 77, which pretty much wraps up everything that happened in the Shie Hassaikai arc. There are 3 major events which take place in this episode, so let's go ahead and break them down. So we finally got the conclusion of the battle between Deku and Overhaul. It really ended in the previous episode when he got his ass just completely destroyed by all of those punches from Deku, but that still doesn't stop him from having one last desperate attack, which of course does jack and shit. Nothing at all. He's pretty much officially defeated and is taken in by the police. While all of this is going on, however, Eri's powers are still sort of running out of control and have the potential to actually kill Deku. That's when Eraserhead comes in, gets rid of her powers, and the day is officially saved. Now, Eri is going to be okay, and it looks like she's actually going to be taken in by the superheroes, and she's actually going to be quarantined because her powers are just completely out of control. That and the fact that she is just in this crazy emotional state, and who knows what could potentially happen if she overused her powers. She could basically just erase someone from existence, just Thanos-dust them in a freaking second. Luckily, Eraserhead is going to be around to use his powers in case she starts to lose control, but they're actually going to study her and try and get her back on her feet and teach her how to use her powers. And again, I think Eraserhead brought this up, and I thought it's a pretty major point. Her powers only work on living objects, so imagine trying to train an ability like that. Even if you make like a big major mistake, that could potentially really hurt someone and completely change their entire life, especially when she doesn't have the ability to control it at all. And a lot of people had the theory, and my theory myself, that eventually they were going to use her powers to give Mirio Togata his abilities back, the permeation, and she even could be potentially used to save Sir Night-Eye, who still has a massive frickin' spike going through his entire abdomen. And that brings us to the next major part of the episode, which is the death of a major character. Now, I was fully convinced with the introduction of a character like Eri that they simply were just going to use her powers to heal Night-Eye, and it doesn't look like it's actually going to be that simple. While he is saved by the paramedics and the doctors and even Recovery Girl returns, when you get a giant fucking spike rammed through your abdomen, you're probably going to have a bad time. And basically, half of this episode is devoted to seeing Sir Night-Eye on his literal deathbed, visited by all of his loved ones and friends, and even the reunion with All Might. And this entire scene just hurts. It was such a devastating scene because while we have had some character deaths in the series, this is by far the most impactful one that we have seen this far in the series. And I felt so bad mostly for Mirio Togata because of the relationship between these 2 characters, how much of a strong bond they had, and the fact that the last thing that Night-Eye does before he passes away is that he uses his quirk to look into the future, reassuring Mirio that he will become a great hero, and very much still is. It's so fitting that this character who has the ability to look into the future in his final moments even says that the future is going to be bright. It was a perfect character death for him, and while everybody's just crying around him, they all are reassured that they have to put on a big smile if they want to make the future as bright as it is. It's cheesy, it's over the top, but it's handled so well in the series. Like I said, we've had deaths in the show before, but this is the most impactful thus far, especially for the character of Mirio. So I can't wait to see how eventually he is going to get his powers back, whether it's through Eri, or he simply is just going to be an amazing hero even without them. Because that's, of course, one of the biggest themes of My Hero Academia, is that you don't necessarily need a quirk or a superpower. As long as you have bravery and want to help people, you yourself can become a hero. So this was all handled so well, but then all of a sudden we get this massive surprise in the episode, which is the return of the League of Villains. While Overhaul is being taken to a hospital, which by the way is called Takodana, Again, the creator of the series just really freaking loves Star Wars, another great reference. They're attacked by the League of Villains who are in this massive truck, and they manage to attack the police, and they drag Overhaul out, who is still strapped down and even has his secret weapons with him. And this is just one of those scenes that reminds the viewers that while they can introduce a lot of new villainous organizations who almost seem like they're on par with the League of Villains, they ain't got nothing on Tomura Shigaraki. This scene just established him as the best villain of the entire show, and showing just how incredibly twisted he truly is. Not only does he decide to not save Overhaul, but he actually takes away both of his arms, with Mr. Compress coming in, getting revenge, removing one of his arms entirely, and then Shigaraki actually using his quirk on his body and then cutting off his arm in the process, effectively leaving him with no hands and the inability to actually use his quirk anymore, and to just pour salt over this massive wound. He decides to take his weapons from him and basically says, yeah, I pretty much used your ass to steal your weapon and your entire legacy. Your life now belongs to me, and you are completely meaningless. Laughing and smiling with the most ghastly grin that I think he's ever had from the entire series, this episode solidified Tomura Shigaraki as one of the greatest anime villains of all time, as he leaves Overhaul just screaming in the streets, just having to brew and brood over all of the mistakes that he's made, thinking that he was going to be top dog, only to have absolutely everything taken away from him. And this is only just like minutes after having Deku just completely destroy him. This was a great moment, and it's finally great to see the League of Villains come back to being the #1 villain group in the entire series. That made episode 77 fantastic. 78 is where everything just sort of goes in a completely different direction, and yet at the same time, they're still sort of like cleaning up some of the mess from the Shie Hassaikai arc. First and foremost, we got a brand new intro, and I'm gonna have to watch it a few more times before I decide even if I like it. It's very different and significantly more lighthearted than anything we have seen from the series thus far, and that's because it apparently looks like we're going to be getting a high school festival arc in the series. Now, if anybody even casually watches a lot of anime, especially those that involve characters in school, there's almost always an episode which deals with the cultural festival, where all the students come together and they have this big celebration, and they have games and rides and booths and concerts and all this other crazy crap. It's just a really big part of Japanese culture, and it was only a matter of time before it would rear its cliched head in this series. The only thing that might actually make it kind of mildly interesting is the fact that it involves a school of superheroes, and it also seems like it's going to be focusing on a select group of characters. Not only does it look like we're going to be getting the return of Katsuki Bakugo and even Todoroki, but it looks like Kyoka Jiro is actually going to end up being a really important part of this arc. And that's great, because again, they do have these great cast of characters that, you know, never really get to do that much, but every once in a while they bring them in for their very own arc, and they get to do something interesting, which makes us love them and care about them and actually give a shit about what they're doing. And I can't wait to see what her deal is going to be, as she's had a lot of cool moments throughout the series, but her entire gimmick, of course, has to do with sound and music, and it looks like that's going to be an important part of this arc. It looks like she's going to be starting a band with everybody and having like a huge concert. It's going to be nuts. It makes me wonder, though, if this arc is even going to have any sort of tension or danger, though. Like, this could be a little different from stuff that we've actually seen from the series. We might be getting just kind of a lighthearted, relaxing arc, and to be honest, after Shie Hassaikai, that might be what's actually needed at this moment, especially with Deku and their friends returning to all of their former classmates, who get super excited to see them, but of course are a little cautious, especially Ida, but Deku reassures them, nah, we're all smiles now, everything's good. He had a great conversation with Mirio Togata, who, despite losing his powers, is still as peppy as ever. In fact, I love the scene when he busts into his hospital room and he's doing scissor kicks in the air. It's just so perfectly Mirio, and, you know, being reassured by his master Night Eye as he was dying on his bed that he's still going to be a great hero probably fueled him even more, and he's going to take that advice that he gave him very seriously, especially when it comes to smiling in the face of danger and adversity. So I think that's really great. But then all of a sudden we get this really random scene, which actually features the return of a character that was teased only a few episodes ago. We get to go to freaking Gran Torino and Sakauchi as they're going into the mountains and they're trying to get Kurogiri, the shadow guy. And as they're chasing him down and Gran Torino even manages to subdue him, suddenly they're attacked by this massive monster of a man who goes by the name of Gigantomachia, which is just really fun to say, I have to say. It even sounds like something that would be like the name of a really cool metal band, Gigantomachia. I don't know. I just think it sounds awesome. But this character is essentially like the secret weapon of the League of Villains. And they make it clear that he's definitely one of the strongest characters that we've actually seen in the series. He's quite literally a force of nature. As off screen, we get to see that he like destroys like an entire mountain in like a single attack. And even Gran Torino couldn't manage to subdue him at all. And being that he's sort of like a classic hero who's taken on some of the strongest, this speaks volumes for how terrifying this character is, who essentially is just a giant dude with sharp teeth and looks like a wild freaking beast of a man. What's interesting, however, is that we have seen him before, not only in a few previous seasons, but in a key scene from this season when we went into Eijiro Kirishima's backstory, when those two girls and Mina Ashido were being attacked by that massive man in a cloak. I think that was Gigantomachia, or at least that's what my current theory is. I mean, there's a reason that they decided to show off that character yet again, and he seems to have like the same visual look with the massive jaw and the big sharp teeth. All I know is this guy's gonna be really awesome. Like, apparently he's like another one of these characters that was trained very specifically by the League of Villains and all their leaders, and he's like right up there with Tomura Shigaraki, and they've been building him up for like a couple of episodes, and to finally see him was awesome, although I have to admit, a little disappointing not actually being able to see him in action. I wanted to see how he destroyed that massive mountainside. I mean, did he simply just use it with all of his brute strength? Does he have a quirk that we've never seen before? What really is his powers outside of being just a giant freaky-ass monster man? I just can't wait to see what all of that is going to be about. That right there, my friends, was really awesome and one of the best parts of this episode. But another thing about this episode is building up to the fact that Todoroki and frickin' Katsuki Bakugo are finally getting ready to take their provisional license exams, but they're still going through some training. But this means we'll also get to see the return of some of the classic characters from the last season during the very big exams, such as the return of the real Kami Utsushimi, which I think is really awesome. We even get the return of the Wind Guy and the Crazy Meatball Man. So it's really great to see all of those characters return, and hopefully they'll get to play some sort of part in the next episode, which looks like it's going to fully focus on Katsuki Bakugo and Todoroki finally going through the training. There's also the tense reunion between Endeavor and All Might, and Endeavor is still continuing to be the big loud asshole that he is. I wonder truly what he is actually going to do with All Might, if he's simply just going to get in a fight with him, or if he's actually going to try and work with him for once. Maybe he's been changed by some of the massive events, but he still comes across as basically just a giant douchebag. But still, there's so much excitement for what's going to be coming here, and I loved how this episode sort of like tricked me a little bit. It made me seem like that this was going to be kind of a lighthearted arc, but they're already giving us some pretty massive development for these characters, but it's only a matter of time before we get to that cultural festival, so we'll just have to see. So, what's the rundown on both of these episodes of My Hero Academia? Man, that was a lot of material to take in, but honestly, I think that it was all handled really well. I can honestly say that the final moment at the end of the Shie Hassaikai arc with the return of the League of the Villains might be my most favorite part of this entire season. That's not to say that I didn't like everything with Overhaul and his group, and we even got to see a lot of those guys ended up getting captured. They were all taken in, and even Chronostasis, they follow up on everything that was going on with him and Eraserhead. Pretty much the entire crew is getting thrown in the slammer, so they did a great job of making them seem like this massive threat to the League of Villains, and they really just ended up sort of being like the fly on their shoulder that they had to knock away. Again, reminding us that the League of the Villains truly are just like the best evil group from the series. Like I'm telling you, man, that Tomura Shigaraki scene where he was just removing Overhaul's arms and everything, just, man, sent this massive chill down my spine. I truly did love that moment. I love the return of Mr. Compress. I love that he now has like a really wicked-looking, like mechanical Terminator-looking arm. He's definitely one of my favorite characters from the series, and again, he's barely done anything, but I just love his overall aesthetic of being this like sort of over-the-top, like magician-like character. It was great to finally see him return. Even Spinner, the weird, crazy reptile guy, who didn't get to do much, but was still pretty cool. Even Dobby returns, using his blue fire to fight against this one sand superhero who goes by the name of Snatch. And I really like the way that his powers were portrayed, because I've seen a lot of anime where characters have the power to control sand, kind of like Gaara from Naruto, but I love how he specifically has the sand come out directly from his arms, and he can use it to shield and grab and block things, but to no avail against Dobby and Mr. Compress. There really wasn't much that he could do, and even even the news declares him as dead, although I think he might simply just be captured by Mr. Compress. Still, all of that I think was just the best stuff from both of these episodes, as well as the introduction of Gigantomachia, but the series also did a good job of giving us emotional moments, like the death of Sir Night-Eye, which didn't feel cheap, had a lot of impact, and even a character like Ochako, who desperately has needed some freaking development. She got it in this episode. She feels bad that she couldn't do anything to actually save Sir Night-Eye. It just shows us she's more than just this dumb one-dimensional character who's just going to be the female love interest of the main character of the series. There's room for development, and that's what I love how every arc has just been doing that, by picking and pulling characters and making sure to focus on them and grow them in the series. As for where it's going to be going from here, I'm going to be open-minded about the whole cultural festival thing. I've spoken about this a number of times in a lot of other anime series that I've reviewed, and a lot of it is very stock. And the fact of the matter is, if you watch a lot of anime, you're going to see a lot of tropes and stock material. But who knows? With a show about crazy superhero kids, we could get something kind of interesting and, dare I say it, new. But I'm just going to have to wait and see. I'm interested to see what all this Kyokujiro stuff is going to be about, and it also looked like at the very beginning of the intro, there's two characters that they're keeping kind of secretive, and it's not even really all that secret because there's a trailer for this entire arc of the series and they totally show off who these characters are, but what sort of role that they're going to play in this arc is still mysterious. My guess is that they're probably going to be the playful Team Rocket-esque villains of this arc. I mean, it is implied that we're still going to get some action here, but how it actually plays out is still a complete mystery, but you can bet your ass I'm along for the ride. So let's get to the brass tacks. What are my score for both of these episodes? Honestly, I liked them both for so many different reasons, but if I had any complaints from the episode, they would be superficial at best. And when it comes to my reviewing of anime series, when there's something that I just really like and have no complaints against, I give it a perfect score, which is why I'm going to give both of these episodes a 5 out of 5. Like I said, I could complain about maybe some of the animation moments, maybe the fact that I was upset we didn't get to see Gigantomachia in action. But again, this is all really great build-up for this character, and I can't wait to see what's going to be coming next from My Hero Academia. But you heard my thoughts about the entire episodes, both of them. I want to hear yours. Tell me about them in the comments section below. What did you think about the end of the Shie Hassaikai arc? Is Eri going to return? Is she going to use her powers to heal everyone? What did you think about Sir Night-Eye's death? Will Mirio get his powers back? What about that big League of Villain scenes? What about Gigantomachia? What do you want to see from the cultural festival arc? Tell me all of your thoughts and let's discuss it in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more like this. If you liked the video, go ahead and just smash that like button. Plus ultra it, my friends. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down, baby.